Welcome to Lento English. Ready to level up your English? Here we learn through stories, slow, clear, and fun. Listen, relax, and enjoy the journey.
1. Introduction. The President of France, Emmanuel Macron, arrived in the large city of Beijing. This was a state visit, which is a very formal and important kind of trip for a world leader. It was his 4th time visiting China as the French president. The timing of this visit was very significant. Around the world, there was a lot of instability and uncertainty. Many countries were facing difficult political situations. At the same time, the global economy was going through big changes, which created new challenges for businesses and governments. Because of all these serious issues, this diplomatic meeting was considered a high-stakes encounter. The results of the conversations between the leaders could affect many people and countries in important ways. This story will focus on 3 main themes that were central to the discussions during the visit. The first important theme is the search for geopolitical stability. This means finding ways to create a more peaceful and predictable world for everyone. With conflicts and disagreements happening in different regions, leaders feel it is necessary to communicate clearly. They hope to prevent small problems from growing into bigger ones by working together. The second main theme is the need for economic rebalancing. This idea is about trade, business, and money. For many years, the economic relationship between Europe and China has been growing larger. However, it is not perfectly balanced. One side often sells much more than it buys. The leaders needed to discuss how to make their economic partnership fairer and more equal for both sides. This involves talking about fair rules for trade and investment. The final important theme is the drive for environmental sustainability. Protecting the planet is a huge challenge for every nation in the world. Both Europe and China understand that they have a responsibility to work together on this global issue. This includes finding cleaner ways to produce energy and protecting the natural world for future generations. The story of this visit shows the complex relationship between these 2 global powers. It will present the events from a neutral viewpoint. It will explain the different goals and challenges without taking a side. 2. The meeting in Beijing. The meeting took place in Beijing's Great Hall of the People. This is a very large and important government building. The atmosphere inside was formal and serious, but the 2 leaders were friendly with each other. This was the main event of the French president's visit. Both President Macron and President Xi Jinping knew that their conversation could affect many things around the world. President Macron spoke about the need for good communication. He said that in today's difficult world, it was more important than ever for France and China to talk. He explained that dialogue was vital. He proposed a plan for them to work together on 3 main goals. The first goal was to bring more peace and stability to the world. The second was to make global trade more balanced and fair. The third goal was to cooperate on environmental sustainability and protect the planet for the future. He said their ability to work together was very important. President Xi listened to these ideas. He agreed that their countries had a special role. He told President Macron that both France and China should show their strategic vision. This meant they should act as independent major powers. They should make their own decisions in foreign policy and not simply follow the plans of other nations. He encouraged France to maintain its independence. President Xi also said China was committed to promoting peace in difficult situations like the conflicts in Ukraine and Gaza. He also suggested they could cooperate more in areas like aerospace, artificial intelligence, and the green economy. The personal dynamic between the two men was warm. To show the importance of their relationship, President Xi made a rare decision. He announced he would accompany President Macron to Sichuan Province, a region in the southwest of China. This was a very special gesture. Chinese leaders almost never travel with foreign guests outside of Beijing. This special treatment was a clear sign of respect. It showed the world that this partnership was important to China. After their long talks, the two leaders signed 12 cooperation agreements. These official papers covered many different topics. They agreed to work together on nuclear energy, biopharmaceuticals, and on finding solutions for their aging populations. They also signed a symbolic agreement on panda conservation. These agreements showed that even with some different ideas, France and China could still find many areas where they could work together for a better future. 3. A call for peace. The conversation between the two leaders became more serious. After discussing their own countries, they started to talk about problems around the world. The most important topic was the continuing war in Ukraine. This conflict was a major reason for the meeting in Beijing. Both leaders knew that finding a solution was important for everyone. Global security and the search for peace were a key part of their discussion. President Macron spoke directly and clearly about the need for peace. He asked President Xi for China's help to end the conflict. He explained that all of Europe wanted the war to stop. Macron believed that China had a special and powerful position in the world. He said that China could use its influence with Russia to help stop the fighting. He told Xi that it was very important for France and China to work together on this issue. Their cooperation, he said, was necessary to bring stability back to the world and other regions. President Xi listened carefully and then gave his response. He said that China was also committed to the idea of peace. He stated that his country wanted to help find peaceful solutions to conflicts. He did not only talk about Ukraine. He also mentioned other difficult situations, like the conflict in Gaza. Xi wanted to show that China was a responsible global power that worked for peace everywhere in the world. His message was that China supported stability and wanted to see an end to all violence. However, the situation was very complex. China and Russia have a close and strong relationship. China has given its support to Russia in recent times. This friendship makes it difficult for China to take a strong position against the war. The leaders understood that their countries had different relationships with other nations. This made finding a common plan a real challenge. At the same time, the European Union is trying to become more secure. It is making new policies to depend less on any single country for its safety and economy. Both leaders agreed that global stability was a shared and important goal. But they had different ideas about how to achieve it. President Xi encouraged President Macron and France to be independent in their foreign policy. This means making decisions without too much influence from other countries. The European Union wants stability and clear, fair rules for everyone. China sees itself as an important partner that offers a different way. They both want a peaceful world, but their paths to get there are not exactly the same. This part of their meeting showed how complicated international relations can be. 4. Problems with trade. Besides talking about peace, the leaders also discussed money and business. Trade is very important for both Europe and China, but there are some problems. The two sides do not always agree on the rules for buying and selling products. These disagreements create economic tensions, which are difficulties related to business and money between them. A big part of the conversation was about finding solutions to these trade issues. One of the main problems is the trade deficit. A trade deficit happens when a country buys more products from another country than it sells to it. For a long time, the European Union has bought much more from China than it has sold to China. This problem has been getting bigger. The trade deficit has grown by almost 60% since the year 2019. France also has a large trade deficit with China. This means France buys more Chinese products than China buys French products. This situation is not balanced, and European leaders want to find a way to change it. Other issues around the world also affect trade between Europe and China. For example, the United States sometimes puts tariffs on products. A tariff is a special tax on things that come from another country. These taxes can make trade more difficult and expensive for everyone. There is also the risk of a global recession. A recession is a time when the world's economy is not growing or it is getting smaller. When this happens, people and companies buy fewer things, which is bad for international trade. These outside problems make the economic relationship between Europe and China more complicated. President Macron talked about the need for better and fairer economic rules. He said that the current system is sometimes like the survival of the fittest. This idea means that only the biggest and strongest companies or countries win, and smaller ones can lose. Macron does not want a system like this. He asked for rules that are fair and strong for everyone. He believes this will create a more rebalanced way for countries to do business together. Another important goal for Europe is to reduce its reliance on any single country. This means Europe does not want to depend too much on China for important goods. If there is a problem with a supply chain from one country, it can cause serious issues. A supply chain is the entire process of making a product and getting it to the customer. To make these chains safer, European leaders want to trade with many different countries. This helps to protect their economy from future problems and makes it more stable. 5. Cars and drinks. The problems with trade are not just about large numbers and big ideas. Sometimes, the disagreements are about specific things that people buy and use. Cars and drinks are two good examples. They show how trade arguments between Europe and China work in the real world. One big issue is about electric cars. China makes a lot of electric cars and sells them around the world. Many leaders in Europe believe the Chinese government gives a lot of money to its car companies. This help, called a subsidy, makes Chinese electric cars much cheaper than European cars. This is a big problem for car companies in Europe because they cannot sell their cars for the same low price. They worry they might lose customers and money. To solve this problem, the European Union decided to act. The EU has 27 member countries. They agreed to put a special tax, called a tariff, on electric cars from China. This tariff makes the Chinese cars more expensive to buy in Europe. The goal is to make the competition fairer. France was one of the countries that voted for these tariffs in October 2024. They wanted to protect their own car industry. China was not happy about the new tax on its cars, so it decided to answer. China started its own checks on some important products from Europe. One of these products was French cognac. Cognac is a famous type of alcoholic drink from France. China began an investigation into the price of cognac. This action was a direct response to the EU's car tariffs. After the investigation, China put special rules on cognac. French companies now have to sell their cognac in China above a certain minimum price. This makes it more difficult for them to sell their drinks to the large number of consumers in China. Another product is pork from Europe. China also has special taxes on pork, and it does not plan to remove them soon. These actions show how both sides use products as tools in their talks. This is called political leverage. China uses the rules on cognac and pork to put pressure on Europe. Beijing hopes that Europe might change its mind about the tariffs on Chinese cars. At the same time, Europe uses the car tariffs to ask for fairer trade rules. It is a form of negotiation where products are used like pieces in a game. Specific products become very important in these large diplomatic arguments. Cars from China and drinks from France are now at the center of a big disagreement. These trade disputes show the challenges in the relationship between Europe and China. Finding a solution is difficult because the global economy is changing. Both sides are trying to secure their place in future markets, especially for new technology like electric cars. 6. Big companies visit. President Macron did not travel to China by himself. A large group of business people from France came with him. They were part of a business delegation. These leaders wanted to make new commercial deals and sell more French products in China. It was a very important trip for French industry. Many famous French companies were part of this group. There were top leaders from Airbus, a company that makes airplanes. People from BNP Paribas, a very large French bank, were also there. Other companies like Schneider, which works with electricity, and Alstom, which makes trains, sent their executives. It was not just big technology companies. Leaders from the French dairy industry, which makes cheese and milk products, also joined the visit. They all hope to find new business opportunities in the large Chinese market. China is a very important customer for France. It is one of France's biggest trading partners. Every year, China buys about $35 billion of French goods. French companies sell many different things to China. For example, about 10% of these sales are cosmetics like makeup and perfume. China also buys many aircraft parts for airplanes and famous French alcoholic drinks. For these companies, selling to China helps their business grow and creates jobs in France. Trade goes in both directions. France also buys many products from China. Each year, France buys around $45 billion of Chinese goods. Many of these products are small, low-value items that people buy on the internet. People in France can use online platforms to order things like cheap clothes, phone accessories, and other small gadgets. These items often come directly from factories in China in small parcels. This kind of online shopping has become very popular. But making big business deals was not easy during this visit. There were political problems that made things difficult. For example, many people hoped that China would agree to buy 500 new airplanes from Airbus. A deal that big would be very important for the French company. However, this big deal did not happen. The political situation between China, Europe, and the United States was complicated. Because of these political pressures, it was a difficult time to sign very large contracts. Business and politics were closely connected on this trip. 7. Working for the planet. Even with many disagreements about trade and politics, the leaders of France and China found important subjects where they could work together. These subjects were mainly about protecting the planet and using new technology to build a better future. The leaders understood that some global problems are too big for one country to solve by itself. They agreed that cooperation was very important for a sustainable future for everyone in the world. This part of their meeting was positive and showed that progress was possible. One of the most important topics was the green economy. This means finding new ways to build businesses and create jobs without hurting the environment. Both countries want to use more clean energy, like solar and wind power, and reduce pollution. They decided to cooperate more closely on these green projects. Another key area was nuclear energy. This type of energy can create a lot of electricity without producing the gases that cause climate change. Working together on new and safe nuclear energy technology can help both nations reach their environmental goals. The leaders also talked about the future of technology. They agreed to deepen their cooperation on artificial intelligence, which is often called AI. AI is changing how people live and work very quickly, so it is important for big countries to share ideas and work together on its development. They also discussed biopharmaceuticals. This is the science of creating new medicines and treatments for diseases. Cooperation in this area can help solve serious health problems and improve the lives of people around the world. To show their friendly relationship, the leaders also signed some symbolic agreements. In total, they signed 12 different cooperation agreements after their talks. One of the most famous agreements was about panda conservation. Pandas are a special symbol of China, and working together to protect these beautiful animals shows friendship between the two nations. Other agreements covered practical topics like helping older populations and making it easier for companies to invest in each other's countries. These deals showed that even with their differences, the two nations could find common ground on important issues. They proved that it is possible to cooperate on shared challenges for the good of the planet and all its people. 8. Looking to the future. At the end of the visit, the leaders showed that they could still work together. They signed 12 cooperation agreements. These were official papers about different topics. The agreements covered things like helping old people and protecting pandas. They also agreed to work together on nuclear energy and investing in each other's countries. These agreements were a positive result of the meetings. They showed that France and China could find common ground, even when they disagreed on other things. It was a sign that communication was still very important for both sides. However, the future of the relationship is not simple. There is a difficult balance between economic opportunities and political problems. French companies want to do more business in China. China is a very big market for French products, but politics can make business difficult. For example, big deals for planes were not signed during the visit. This shows that political issues can stop or slow down business deals. Leaders must manage these constraints carefully. They want the economic benefits, but they also have to think about the political situation. The European Union is also changing its rules. Soon, it will start new economic security policies. A key idea behind these new policies is to reduce Europe's reliance on China. This means Europe wants to be able to get important goods from many different countries, not just one. This will be a big challenge for the relationship between Europe and China. It will change how they trade and work together. China wants to be a reliable partner, but Europe is worried about being too dependent. This will be a major topic in the coming years. During their final talks, the leaders spoke about the need for a better partnership. President Macron said that it was very important to build trust. He also spoke about supply chains. He said that countries need to be sure they can get the products they need without problems. He called for a rebalanced economic relationship. This means the rules for trade should be fair for everyone. It should not be a system where only the strongest companies or countries win. President Xi also talked about the importance of major countries having their own independent vision. He said that no matter how the world changes, their two countries should stay strong and independent. Looking ahead, the relationship between Europe and China will continue to be very important. There are many challenges, especially with trade and global security. But there are also opportunities. Both sides know they must work together on big global problems like the environment. The visit showed that dialogue is possible. The future will depend on building more trust and finding a fair balance that works for both Europe and China. It will require a lot of work and understanding from both sides.